What I'm about to show you is pretty gruesome by anybody's standards, so if you're sensitive to Hollywood gore, you might want to stop the video here. Otherwise, stay tuned.
Oh, shit.
This one's done.
Yeah. I know, I wasn't expecting it.
Figured he wasn't down here last time.
That footage is from a show called The Last of Us, and it is a zombie show. But apparently in this show, it's a fungus, and it infects people and takes over their minds and drives them crazy and makes them go and bite other people and create more zombies. We follow a group of people who are survivors who are trying to make their way in this new world without getting infected themselves. Now, the gore in the show is terrible and it's gruesome, but it's actually based on a very real phenomenon that infects insects. This one appears to be a moth. The name of the fungus is cordyceps, and cordyceps is a genus of fungi that are parasitic and they infect insects and kill the insects. But the interesting thing is what happens in between the infection and death. So cordyceps infections are particularly horrific, and they're really good at capturing our imaginations. So if you walk through the Amazon and pay attention to the insects, you'll likely see something like this on the outer ends of palm fronds. These are dead ants, and there's something growing out of them. Once you see one, you'll start noticing them absolutely everywhere. And please forgive some of these blurry photos. At the time, I was not very good at taking close-up shots. So this is the final phase of a cordyceps infection. And what you're not seeing is the tiny microscopic spores that are leaving these mushroom bodies and raining down onto the forest floor. So a spore will land on an ant and somehow gain entrance to the ant's body, where once on the inside, then it will start to spread. And what spreads is called mycelium, and mycelium is a fundamental part of most mushrooms. And think about them as microscopic tubules that kind of grow in length, and they go and they stretch, and then sometimes they get tangled up and make a fruiting body, make a mushroom. Or sometimes they reach down and find water. But in this case, they're making their way through the ant's body, and eventually it'll have some of those little fibers will reach the ant's brain. So this is the wild part. Once it's gained access to the insect's brain, it can actually affect the insect's behavior, like a puppet or like a marionette. It can make the insect do things that the insect was not planning to do. So they can't really orchestrate complex behaviors, but one thing they can do is transmit to the ant to go up. So the ant is going to be infected, it's going to have these little tendrils get into its brain, and it's going to tell the ant to go up. And so the ant will start climbing upwards. So I have a palm tree behind me, and what's going to happen is the ant is going to start at the base of a palm tree from the forest floor, and it's going to start to climb up. And if it chooses this frond right here, it's going to climb up and up and up and up, and eventually it's going to end up on the tip of one of these palm fronds, and that is where it's going to stop because it cannot go up any further. Now, at this point, the ant will succumb to the fungus and die. Now, this ability to control the behavior of an insect has earned this fungus the moniker zombie ant fungus. So once the ant dies, the fungus will continue to grow, and it'll continue to build this mycelia inside of the ant and basically consume the ant from the inside out. So it eats the ant basically. And once it's all done, the final stage, a mushroom is going to sprout out behind the ant's head and up into the air. Now what this mushroom has done is walked itself up so it's at a high point so that when it releases these microscopic spores, they will then again rain down onto the forest floor and hopefully find another ant. So basically, by making the ant walk up before it dies, it's expanding the range of the spores or seeds that it is going to spread. So ants aren't the only insects that are affected by cordyceps. It's actually quite a few insects. And here's an example of a weevil that I found with a bright orange cordyceps mushroom growing out of its head. I've also seen spiders affected by cordyceps. This one appears to be a moth that suffered the same fate. Another particularly grisly fungus is called mesospora, and it infects cicadas. This is a fungus that lives underground, and as young cicadas, which of course are fairly large insects that don't have wings, but they have these really strong front legs, and they crawl under the soil and feed on plant roots. But this fungus will infect them, and then when the cicada emerges, and everybody's seen the little husks, the little exoskeletons that they leave behind, the cicada climbs up, it grows, it hatches out of its old skin, and it grows wings and it flies away. So what happens is this fungus starts to eat away at the cicada's genitals and its butt. And so an advanced infection looks like a cicada with this mummified butt on it. Now the story doesn't end there. While this is happening, the cicada just goes about its business like nothing is wrong. So while this is happening, they're still going around, they're singing, they're copulating with other cicadas. Apparently this actually increases their sex drive, and so they seek out other cicadas and try to mate with them. And when that happens, it actually spreads more of this fungus, like an STI in humans. It spreads this fungus to other cicadas, and it may infect that cicada, or it may be transferred to that cicada's eggs, and the cycle will begin over again. What we don't know. Naturally, science is interested in any infection that will actually kill insects, particularly pest insects. And that is because it is possible that you can manipulate these fungi and make them work for you and kill insect species. And this whole thing is called biocontrol. So cordyceps is no exception. It's actually been used successfully in a few biocontrol projects. And naturally, further study is definitely needed, and especially understanding disease cycles and how we can maybe use it for other species that are targeted.